Hello, orators. Welcome to week 4 of the Art of Oratory. So far, we've covered general storytelling. We've talked about Moravian, Maslow, Aristotle. We've talked about brain laterality, the 4 quadrants, brain dominance, and we've talked about APA and emails. Now we're going to move along into really the nonverbals, the parts that you're going to be workshopping for us in a couple of weeks. And we're also going to be talking about those workshops. So, let's get this moving along. All righty. So, got here an example of, it's another Padlet that I've created, and this one is a global Padlet. I'm going to ask that before our class in week 4, that you're going to pin a spot on the map, that you're going to pick it based on it's your origin, it's your hope, or it's your future. It's really easy. You'll see one little purple pinpoint in there right now. That happens to be my origin. And we've already talked about it in class. Some of you won't be surprised. Photo I took this summer. So what do you need to do for this week's class? Well, for this week's class, I'm really hoping that you have covered your readings out of the handbook. You've looked at the OER. You've looked at the extra resources that are available on Brightspace. And some of those are just the links that are going to be over to the Prof. Judy website. You also are going to have to prepare a short census talk. You'll have to do that TED Talk analysis, and your quiz is going to open up, and you'll have 4 attempts for that. So, nonverbals. What are we talking about when it comes to nonverbals? Well, you do remember the general breakdown that I gave you about Moravian, and that it's 55% for body language, 38% on your vocals, and 7% on the content. I also want to remind you really specifically, even though we're going to look at specific nonverbals, we started to talk about the 10 different workshop possibilities. They really are interconnected. You don't just have your eye language without having your voice modulations. You don't just have your use of hands without the rate at which you're speaking. An effective orator, therefore, is going to be able to synthesize and harmonize, bring together those different aspects, and you're going to be able to give a convincing, powerful performance, not sending any mixed signals to your audience. In other words, not smiling and shouting at the same time. So part of what we're doing in breaking all of these apart is going to be to grow your skills, grow your abilities. Several of you have spoken about how you would like to develop a higher level of confidence when it comes to presenting. These are specific skills that are designed to do that for you. These extra sites here, the Very Well site, you'll be seeing those during our class next week. So a reminder, for our breakdowns, we've got this business of body language, 55%. What does body language include? It's going to include your actual stance, that position that you take on. I've talked about it a few times in class. That's your karate stance, right? And it includes how you make eye contact with the audience, how you use our hands, whether it's individually as fingers or it's the whole set of hands. It is the proximity you have to your audience and how you use your platform. You know, recording on a video like this, not ideal for platform use. And of course, your facial expressions, being aware of how you use your face. Voicing or prosody, 38% of your content is your volumes, how loud and soft you are, the rates, your words per minute, how clearly you articulate, your effective use of pausing or not, your pitch, tone, and intonation. A couple of other things, your persona that you take on in public, and video meetings, what you have to prepare behind the scenes to be effective with your audiences. So a little bit more detail in terms of the body language. And again, we're going to have groups who deliver workshops on any of these 5 kinds of positions. Your stance or posture, how you prepare yourself. There are certain strong stances, certain postures that give you a level of authority automatically with your audience. Standing with one knee slightly bent makes you a more approachable. Standing with your feet square, shoulder width apart, makes you a more in control presenter. eye contact. You always want to make sure you've got more than 50% with your audience and not depending on looking at your notes or your supports, or as I call them, your trigger sheets. Hands, you should be purposeful use of it. They should typically be in parallel. So I've already commented a few times, if you're keeping one hand in your pocket, it weakens your strength. Proximity and platform. Edward T. Hall, important researcher, talked about proxemics. So this is how close or far away you are from your audience and how you modulate your voice based on that. So the closest spot, your intimate space, to your personal space, to your social space, to your public space. So you've got different distances between you and your audience. And an audience can be a person of one in that intimate space, or it can be an audience of a few thousand, let's say in a large setting like an arena. Laban is talking about the intentionality of effort and movement, and that's how that part is linked together. And then facial expressions are macro, those really big ones. Wow, that kind. Or the subliminal ones where sometimes you're not even in control of it. You see something and your face sends off a signal to the audience about your feeling on it. When it comes to the voicing aspect, here we're looking at different varieties of volumes. It's got to be more than just loud and soft. It's whispers. It's building tension. Rates, this is your standard. Most people speak in this range of 145 to 175 words a minute. You have some who are on the extreme slow end, such as Martin Luther King Jr., whose typical speaking rate was around 120 words a minute. You have some who are on the high end, like a Barack Obama, who's at 180, and then very high-end speakers who are, let's say, somebody who's working on an auction. Articulation, your articulators are typically the things that you use to speak. So it's your teeth, your tongue, your lips, your palate. The errors are the mistakes that we can make, and some of them are accidental, might be omissions, substitutions, pausing. There's a dramatic pause, a setup pause, a leading in pause. Typically, pauses help us avoid filler words too. Pitch, tone, and intonation. Pitch is your frequency, it's your musicality of something. Tone is the quality or the roundness of the sound. And intonation is the rise and fall of your voice, or the cadence, the rhythm of your speaking. When it comes to gestures, your eCampus resource has this really excellent short video, and the presenter has won a number of awards. He's Sri Lankan, and he speaks about some key aspects here. Your movement, your ability to engage the audience naturally and intentionally, and this open hand position, where if you keep your hands open, your audience is far less intimidated by you. Gestures should be comfortable and natural. There should be an anticipation that the audience can feel with what you're doing. Your facial expressions should be integrated with your content, and your eyes, again, that deliberateness, make sure your whole audience is included in your presentation. Okay, so vital organs, we've heard this talk once before, the idea of protecting them, and that was when we talked about how we have forgotten how to breathe properly. I'll let you continue watching that video on your own time. The DAV form, I've talked about this a few times already during class and in previous video sessions. The DAV form is going to be core to assessments throughout this course. Design, animation, voicing, DAV, that's how we get to the DAV form. It'll be varied in different forms. You'll be using this template for marking your TED Talks for this week. A variation of the form will be used for me assessing you when you do your group work and when you do your final presentations as well. And that's about it for right now. We'll continue with the next video shortly.